Welcome to Season 2. We pick up almost immediately after the events of the last episode, with Lorelai having displaced all of the daisies that Max sent her for his proposal around the town. She's in the middle of contemplating accepting his proposal, though everyone around her assumes it's an inevitability and doesn't understand why she's questioning it.
Patty.
In style weddings, you said yes.
Oh, no, not yet.
Yet. She said yes.
I know. I'm right here.
With the slight exception of Luke, who, despite his efforts to be supportive of her choices, his disappointment and mild jealousy does bleed through.
Well, you're making a big deal about telling me he proposed.
I don't think I'm making a big deal.
You wouldn't do that if you weren't going to say yes. Where are you going to live?
What?
Here, Hartford?
Pointing out the issues of two people rushing into marriage without thinking things through properly, which is something Lorelai brings up when she actually discusses this with Max.
If I die, I want you to know where the coupon drawer is.
Well, I would like that too, I think. Are you saying yes?
But inevitably she does end up saying yes, and for the first 2 episodes everything seemed to be going pretty well for them. They're very excited to get married, albeit there are some rocky moments with Emily when she ends up being one of the last people to find out that they're getting married. I'll come back to Emily and her role in Series 2 in a later video. However, the biggest issues start to arise in Episode 3, where there begins to be more elements of conflict forming between Max and Lorelai, due to Max wanting to have some degree of authority over Rory's relationship with Dean, and Lorelai isn't particularly comfortable with that. Along with them starting to have a lot more conflict and arguments.
Max, I'm sorry, I forgot.
Again. You need to think about someone other than yourself for a few minutes a day.
Along with the possibility that she may be in love with someone else.
Well, you only get married once. Theoretically.
Yeah, you only get married once.
Which ultimately leads to Lorelai making the decision to call off the wedding. I think it's unfair to sort of villainize Lorelai for this decision, as it clearly breaks her heart to do this. And I do think it is the natural conclusion they were eventually coming to with their arc. The main issue, I think, is that it is slightly rushed, and the fact that we don't see Max's reaction to the relationship ending. It happens off screen. Lorelai is kind of pressured into getting married to Max. It's not that she doesn't like him, it's clear that they have strong chemistry, but as I said in the previous video, she's looking for a more casual relationship while he wants something a bit more long term, and she doesn't really take this whole getting married thing seriously. I mean, just look at the reaction she has to her engagement ring.
It's a little deco.
A little deco?
No, I thought I heard her bark.
No, that's just a wild jackal that hangs out here sometimes.
And what's more, despite being somewhat supportive of her decision initially, Rory does question her choice and is pretty upset about how she just seemed to quickly end the engagement and not really offers a proper explanation for it.
This is our life that you just tossed off.
Hey, I didn't just toss off anything.
Everything was planned. Everyone was excited, including you, and then all of a sudden you're out.
I'm sure. I wish I did love him.
I definitely think the intention was to make their engagement feel incredibly rushed. I mean, they've only been dating each other for a small amount of time. If I were to offer any potential alternative ways of presenting this, I would have maybe taken advantage of the fact that Episode 2 ends with Max stating that he's going to be away for several months. I'd have Episode 3 take place during that time away, as what actually happens is that they just skip over that hiatus and that he's already back. Having a story set during that time where he's away can be used as an opportunity to slowly set up Lorelai's anxieties and possibly have a lot of the cast talking about, in a joking manner, that her life is going to be changing soon. It's going to be very different and she's got to prepare for that. and it helps to build her anxieties, though she brushes it off initially until we get to the episode where they start bickering and start arguing about what Max's role is going to be. I think it would have made more sense. I assume that it was a scheduling issue with Max's actor, Scott Cohen, as he only appears in 4 episodes, 3 of them related to the marriage arc, and one set a couple of episodes later, which deals with the whole issue of him being Rory's teacher, and at least the 2 of them get a nice resolution to their relationship.
I just want you to know, I really wanted you to be my stepfather.
I just want you to know, I really wanted to be your stepfather.
So having an episode while he's away kind of helps to keep this arc going a little longer so it doesn't feel too rushed, and help to better sell Lorelai's anxieties so she feels less like a antagonistic figure, because there is some degree of understanding and sympathy towards her choice, even if it is disappointing for Max. I do feel bad for him, but because I'm not that invested in their relationship, I'm not too upset when it comes to an end. Speaking of the hiatus between episodes 2 and 3, I kind of wish that if we'd gotten that hypothetical extra episode, it would also deal with Lane's subplot. In the first 2 episodes, they're setting up the possibility of her indefinitely going back to Korea, and it's mostly played for laughs, but I think it could have been a good opportunity to explore her relationship and friendship with Rory, and Rory having to deal with the prospect of her not being there anymore. But it never really comes up, outside of a few visual gags with her suitcase. She's just not referenced in episode 3, and then comes back at the end of episode 4, and that plot is completely dropped. I would say this is probably one of Lane's weaker seasons. She does have some interesting stuff to do here, but not a lot of it ends up going anywhere. For instance, her relationship with Henry. He appears quite frequently throughout the first couple of episodes, and is initially on board with dealing with all of Lane's bizarre instructions to work around Mrs. Kim's strict rules, but it eventually becomes too much for him and he decides to call things off. I wouldn't mind this too much, but it kind of has an open ending when Mrs. Kim finds out she would have approved of Henry and suggests that she's going to try and see if she can help fix things. But he never really comes back.
He was Korean?
Yes, and he was smart and wonderful and cute.
And you're sure he was Korean?
There's something that is pretty significant that happens to Lane that doesn't really go anywhere this season, but will become a major part of her character throughout the rest of the series, is when Stars Hollow ends up getting a music shop run by Carole King, of all people, the person who performs the opening credits song. She discovers her dream of becoming a drummer.
It's beautiful. You play? Oh, no, I wish. Sit. What? Sit down, see how it feels. Oh, I couldn't. Why, your legs don't bend?
So not a strong season for Lane overall, but at least sets up future plot points which will help to expand her character. But while we're setting up things for her to come in the future, we wrap up the story of Tristan. Much like Max, I imagine Chad Michael Murray had a much busier schedule, and so they decided to write him out. Initially he's absent to begin with, but shows up for one final episode, which does a good job explaining where he's been, having him be constantly suspended for his misbehaviour, until his father decides to take him away from Chilton in order to deal with his behaviour once and for all.
Take care of yourself, Mary.
When Dean and Tristan accidentally become reunited due to unforeseen circumstances, she becomes worried about the kiss that they shared being revealed.
We kissed.
You and Tristan?
Uh-huh.
The next night, after I told you I loved you, you kissed Tristan?
I'm a terrible person. Dean is coming to rehearsal tonight, and I'd like to ask you to promise that you won't say anything to him about what happened.
What happened?
We kissed.
That was you?
You know what? Forget it.
So, when he leaves, I don't really feel anything other than relief that he's gone, and thankfully, his role is going to be replaced by a far, far better character. But I'll talk about that in the next video. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, please support the channel by hitting subscribe, turning on notifications, liking, commenting. You can find and follow me on social media here, and I'll see you next time.
Rory. Sorry, serious now.